All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always. I'm recording this straight after last episode because I want more. I don't want to say it right here. And I'm just excited to get back into it. So we're going to get a little bit more into it. Cool? Cool. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene. The whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full-time for a couple of years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was an off semester for her. She wanted to make sure she was in town because you had now also graduated high school, so who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future. I like your dress. You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over the comment Ma had made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname was welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she had moved away, you lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. You idly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. I'd say I'm still a little bit of a picky eater, but I also eat whatever. I'll say whatever. And the meal you had reflected that. It included just about everything your moms had made, though you often made your own food nowadays. With Liz around, though, your parents made even more options than usual. Your sister had been a vegetarian for a while, okay. And they wanted to make sure she had choices too. They're old. Conversation had gone on idly, without you fully taking in the words, until your ears were piqued when Ma started on a bit of town gossip. And so that's how I heard the news. Alright, now stop burying the lead and tell us, what is this so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out the Donnells won't be renting out of the condo up the street as per Sunset Bird tradition, for the first time in what must be nearly 2 decades. The chorus of gasps and shocked expressions were all had around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Mom may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at everyone under 25 who crossed their paths. Your mom continued with this story, spreading strawberry jam over a piece of toast as she did so. They've decided not to take big trips anymore. Friends and family will be visiting them at their home. That's nice for them then. Have a good summer, mean grandparents with no grandkids, away from us. That's a relief. Be nice, kids. You don't want to end up like them, now do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the jokes. At least they won't be here to yell at my children anymore. Funny. And that blunt comment got laughter from all 3 of you. Engrossed in conversation once more, you continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Oh, that's it. Well, 3rd time's a charm. Okay. As it went, once the food was eaten, the cleanup had to be done. Liz took the role of washing the dishes and passed them to you for drying and putting away. You had a set of cups in front of you that needed to go on the top shelf of the cabinet. Oh boy. It was a struggle to get them up without a stepping stool. You were short. That was simply your lot in life. You'd always been vertically challenged. You felt great about how things were. Your height was something about yourself that you were always quite pleased with. Liz shook you out of your internal musing by starting up an impromptu conversation. She seemed to be voicing the thoughts that had been buzzing around in her own head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall will be pretty intimidating. You'd think after the first year or 2 I'd have a handle on things, but no. You stole a glance at her, still placing cups in the proper place. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes, and year 1 of my architecture major was the basics. Now it feels serious. I have to actually know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy, but the way she scrubbed at the plates held more force than necessary. I know you can handle it. How sweet of you to believe in me. Thanks. She's like so formal and interesting. She's changed. The older sister's mouth quirked into a small smile. I'll be fine one way or another. Oh, but I'm not trying to scare you away from college, if that's even your plan. What's going on with that anyway? I guess you'd had a solid plan set for a long time. You answered the question with as much as you were able and willing to. Liz's smile grew more reassuring as you did. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You can make your ideas happen, I'm sure. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you soared through with high marks. I was reading all the other ones. And you were just glad it was truly behind you. You'd achieved a lot and could take what you learned with you moving forward. Liz picked up on the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic. You're a good kid, Kit. Do what's best for you, and we'll be here to back it up. Thanks. You're a good big sister. At that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way. She waved a soapy-soaked hand as a farewell and moved on to her next task for the cleanup job. They refocused on getting the last pieces put back where they belonged. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but that was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. So I have a cell phone? Though to be fair, we are an adult now. We should have our own cell phone. But I have a cell phone? It was the phone's default ringtone. You casually picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier. The phone was a couple years old at this point, having been a 16th birthday gift from your parents. They decided which model to get, but you got to pick the color. It was black. And it was just a phone. The screen lit up as you gave the device a swipe with one finger. You were informed by caller ID that it was Lee. You weren't surprised. I'm excited. Despite having busier and busier lives and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with your cousin of the same age. Especially once the miracle of both of you having your own phones actually happened. She got hers first, though. Tapping at the accept button, you answered the call. A familiar, bubbly voice came through right after. I'm so excited to see her. Okay. I need a full body, but okay. Hey, Kit. What's up? This is so me. I trust I'm not interrupting anything major. Only some cleaning around the house. Oh, then you're welcome for my call. A distraction from what? A distraction from what must have been desperately needed. Yes, thank you, my dear cousin. It's my pleasure. She giggled, and you could hear the jangling of the jewelry she must be wearing. Nothing amazing is happening for me either. I'm bored and felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I'm free for the rest of the day. Woo. That's good. Do I have a job? At 18, fresh out of high school? The summer? I'm assuming it's like the day after or the week after, or I don't know. I'll say not yet. Unlike you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently even more complicated, but you both managed. What about you? It's been pretty normal. Cool. That's you then. So, how's Mr. Holden doing? There was a teasing bent to her tone. She was never willing to let up on what was going on between the two of you. Oh boy. But that name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next door neighbor for the past decade at this point. Wow. Damn, shit, you could just decide. Shit. God, I'm between so many options. I like just, we're close. Shut up. But I also like, secretly you'd hope that he'd tell you he felt more than that. But I also like you hadn't admitted you felt more than that just yet, because like, is that to yourself or is that to him? I like to yourself, it's fun. Probably this one. I guess this one, I don't know, leave me alone. Cove was so very special to you. You could only dream that it was mutual. You knew you wouldn't be able to tell him that though. Maybe he would take the plunge. Well, he's at low initiative, so. Are you even surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Or is everything right in the world again and he's back? No, Lee, he isn't here. Just like he wasn't here yesterday, or the last time you asked, or the time before that. Aw, my bad. Can you blame me? Doesn't it seem like he should have made his grand return already? Plus, I want to visit soon, and he needs to be there too. You could understand where she was coming from. This was certainly outside the norm. For the past couple of months, and the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to his mom's place in Nevada. The two of you still regularly stayed in contact over text and calls, but still, your mind began to drift back in time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go away for a while, and then he'd be back. Damn. I like it made you sad and lonely, but I also like you weren't a fan, but made do. I guess you weren't a fan, but made do. Wow, you sent him letters. We have a phone. Care packages is so cute. My ears just died on me. You kept an eye on his house for him. You were incapable of doing anything until he was back. Anything. I like that one. Anything. It felt as though time was standing still during those days. Your life only moved forward when you saw his face in person again. Sorry, that was a little bit too much. He sent you letters. Okay, I'm not sending him letters, but he's sending me letters, which made things a teeny bit easier. That's how it was in the past, but lately he'd been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became too impractical to do. His part-time work could become full-time soon, or he could be moving somewhere else for school. Cove hadn't actually been entirely clear what his plans were after graduation. Cove was hesitant to speak on that, even with you, okay? It couldn't be avoided forever, though. You both knew that. Maybe we should switch up this to a non-Cove related topic? That works. The rest of the conversation rolled on. Not much longer, though. Lee had to go, and you needed to finish your responsibilities around the house. The both of you exchanged goodbyes, then you went back to what you'd been working on before the call came in. As you wrapped up the last of your chores, you were approached by Liz wearing a cheeky smile. You heard that, huh? I've got Mom's keys. Want to get out of this tiny town to do some shopping in a real city? Yeah, it's been way too long since I've gone anywhere exciting. Good. I'm driving. Yeah, you sure fucking are. Go get your wallet and anything else. We're going now. With a nod, you made a quick detour to collect your stuff from their bedroom. You had money saved up from the gifts you'd received. After making sure you both were fully prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area, you buckled into the car. It was a smooth ride there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at and the radio blasting. The trip there breezed by. I feel like I've seen this mall before. And in what felt like no time, you had gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. Liz had her interests to check out, and you yours. Your hobbies and skills were still the ones you developed when you were younger. When turning a corner down the new length of the mall, your eyes caught on a little gift store. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You really appreciated what you had gotten. It was thoughtful of them. Eventually, the mall was explored in full, with every shop of note being checked over. Rather than going home, you decided to walk over to some smaller stores nearby. Liz had many thoughts on that topic. Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even if smaller stores require extra distance, the brands are so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking and walking right in the middle of the path. It was a good thing no one else was behind her. She seemed entirely shut off for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all her focus. Before you could puzzle out what might be happening, she began to mumble out of the corner of her mouth. Kit, don't draw attention, but look. What? With a harsh whisper and a subtle jerk of her head, she urged you once more. Look! You followed her gaze as best you could to a large bunch of colorful teens strolling down the same path. Okay. You faced back to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question. What were you supposed to be seeing here? Kit, doesn't one of them seem familiar? She was... Hello, you're closer and also, blurry. That's so much fun. Also, oh my god, my initials. She was practically bouncing at this point, so you looked the group over again. And this time, you saw what she was seeing. Amongst the collection of strangers was brown hair, gray eyes, lots and lots of freckles. That's Shiloh. Our Shiloh, from when we were kids. Yeah, that was definitely him. I can't believe it. He's honestly just there. That's hilarious. That's incredible. Oh, but how do we talk to him? We'd have to pull him away from all those other people, and what if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she cut it off with her own answer to the question. I've got it. I'll shout the name Shiloh, and then we can act like it wasn't us. If he responds to that, we'll know without a doubt it's him. Kit, keep an eye out to see if he looks. Can't you just try talking to him normally? Likely without even hearing what you had to say, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She loudly projected the word across the way and then put on an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. In a supremely awkward moment, you could only stand there as attention in the area shifted to the two of you, thanks to your sister's shout. But one of the many startled bystanders who became alerted to your presence, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back around to greet her old friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet without really closing the gap. She wanted him to come to her. Who you presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He stole a quick glance at the crowd he was with and hesitantly glanced back your way. He was trying to double-check something. Liz remained steadfast with her gaze trained on him, and ultimately, he broke away from the rest of him. She looks so, excited and nervous, even in just, her picture here, and I'm like, girl. After a light-footed jog across the brick path, the young man pleasantly presented himself in front of Liz and you. Hi, I like your hat. Just that simple greeting had Liz giggling. Hi, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie, and that's Kit. We were all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even larger, their gaze darting between you and Liz. His previously chipper demeanor faded into something delicate. I'm really sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. You could tell not being instantly recognized was going to make this exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago, you were really young. I get why you feel like that. However, I'm positive that I'm right. You're exactly the same. The face, the freckles, how genially you try to phrase things. You're even still wearing a hat. Instinctively, he looked up at his headwear with creased brows, not making the connection on why the hat meant something to her. We knew each other, okay? An uneasy smile settled on him as a silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. And then the quiet was obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation. Shiloh, what are you doing? The rest of the group already left. A field trip is not a vacation. We're on a schedule. Oops. Startled, your head snapped towards the path. A distinctly unhappy individual with piercing magenta eyes, dark brown skin, and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite looking like he wasn't even 18 yet. Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with an hand to add the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically, as well as literally, put her foot down at that, stomping in frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion. We do know you. Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pained. Sorry. You honestly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him? Is that it? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him that it was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated himself. Well, do you know me? I'll tell you. I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance in his general day-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection with him you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering in the road. It's rude. Excuse me? We're the rude ones? God. Liz, come on. We need to go. The high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up again in his defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With that declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily towards where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. Oh, people can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry though, I bet you won't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry I can't stay to talk to you, but I hope you have a really nice life. Bye. And that was it. His final parting words given, Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit, stunned, only to frown when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he appeared. It happened so fast you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. Could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday is October 30th. That would have proved it, but no. I'm sorry, Liz. You felt so bad for your baby sister. He had been such a close friend in her early years, their reunion was completely ruined. No. Why aren't you running after him? Don't do it. Liz merely shook her head, pushing off childish thoughts. I think we can leave it here, thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip and it was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given the chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell there wasn't much humor in it. She was mad at that guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip, and it's not usually how things are. True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. Good luck out there. You'll need it. Liz smiled at you. It had the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, kid. Let's finish our own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. The two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched your back as you stretched your arms towards the ceiling. While it had been a good day, it had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room, the guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She'd had quite a lot to say on the subject when he'd first taken over her bigger room after she left for college. But there have been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. I had no choice. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. We can take turns. You can have Thanksgiving, I'll get Christmas. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. I love her so much. She flashed her familiar grin, and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to the spare room. You were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Okay. Kind of random. Okay. Okay, layout. Blue. Green. Green has a bookshelf. Purple. Or yellow. Yellow also has a bookshelf, but there are no books on it. Like, it has a bigger bookshelf, but there's nothing on it. I guess I'll go green. I'm not the biggest fan of green, but I like that I have the tiniest bed in the world compared to yellow. Not that we need it for anything. Extras. No extras. Do I get extras in any other? Extras, I could have laundry. Purple extras, I could have a vase and some candles. And yellow extras, there's stuff on the shelves. Okay, but that's so unfair. I want extras. Window. Oh. Yeah. Not so much that one. Oh my god. There are more. This is so fun. Okay, that. Walls. Left. Oh my god, there's extras for like everything. Okay. Back. Just kidding. They took them off. Right, I could have just that. That's all that I have. Lights. This is so fun. Okay, floor. No. That's it. Middle, I could have a guitar. And right, I could have a telescope. I guess the guitar. I play violin, but kind of similar. Okay. Is this what we're going with? Okay. You were really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, oh my god, my room! And it has like lighting? Like an actual... Think of how many background photos they had to do here, right? Like, because the lighting has changed. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. When you turned back around, you realized you were not alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Have you ever considered walking through the door like a normal person? Also, I'm really reconsidering the haircut. You need something. This isn't it, but okay. Anyway, it's Cove. Okay, I've had this happen before in real life where my friends walked into my bedroom without me noticing. And the very first thing that I said locked eyes with the first one to appear in the doorway. The very first thing that I said was, "Why are you here?" And I feel like "how are you here" is very similar. It was a very judgy way that I said it too. I was like, "Why are you here?" So how are you here? Surprise? A little, yeah. His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind in your own house. He hadn't answered how he had suddenly just appeared back in Sunset Bird, though, to be fair, you had been so astounded there hadn't been much of an opportunity for him to chat with you. Thankfully, Cove was only waiting for a good moment to start, and began to explain. "I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way." The window. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe he was really there, mere feet away from you. "I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright." I guess. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of call, taking precedence above all else. Hold on. Okay, I had to take a breath. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity rather than allowing his plans to change. You stayed frozen, the shock yet to melt away. Your eyes were straining from the effort of remaining wide open. You finally gave in, letting your eyelids close and flash open again. He was still there. Cove dropped from his seat on the windowsill. It's good that it's kind of a large windowsill, though the plants and the books are maybe not the best for if you wanted to sit there. Landing lightly on his feet, he made his way towards you, the smile still resting on his face. Trouble's back in town. Oh boy. You're also insane, but I'll say that one. Again, every single time that I see that haircut. Your smile fueled Cove's own, brightening him up even further. Being the focus of your joy and attention made a blush bloom on his skin, like flowers blossoming in spring. Shut up, shut up, shut up, go back out the window. Leave and never return. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning wildly, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most Window. Now. Go. Be gone. Obviously. Was the trip any good? Yeah. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around Sunset Bird for the time being. I sure fucking hope so. Things were settled as much as they could ever be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you'd been busy reuniting. I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. You want to come with me? Sure. Cool. Cove began to head for your bedroom door. Great. Come in through the window, leave through the bedroom door. So much sense. Our living room changed again. I don't remember this being there. And didn't the kitchen change? Why did I not notice this the first time? Too busy doing dishes. The kitchen changed. The two of you casually went down to the ground floor of your house. Cove's surprise arrival had wiped your earlier discovery from your mind. Now that you'd had a chance to recover, you figured you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I have to tell you, you're never gonna guess who I saw today. You didn't give Cove a chance to reply. There seriously was no way that he'd figure it out. Shiloh. Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. From when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was that freckly boy from the first summer, right? The one who moved. The guy was named Shiloh, and he looked just like Shiloh from back then, even wearing a hat still. But he had no idea who I was and ran off somewhere. Cove frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it, though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever together because other people they both know. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. He didn't say much. The hair's growing on me, don't worry. Oh well. That was everything you had on the news item, so you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors, the ones who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah, they're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been an institution for as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. Feels like I've missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something. And we better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. The two of you headed out and traced the most familiar path you'd ever walked. The trip was across the road, over to Cove's house, like straight path, I assume. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was so excited that Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile. So what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun, don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of the summer before all the big changes started. I'll try. But before you go gallivanting around town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. Okay. Thanks very much. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove get into a Cove. And his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too. Are we waiting for a car to run us over, or what are we doing in the road? Hey there, Kit. Cove smiled lightly and waved. When you began making your way over, he added, Hi. So, hello. Cove couldn't quite meet your gaze, but as I approached, the corners of his mouth pulled into a smile. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. What's that about? Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. So what are you up to today? Me and Cove are meeting some friends later. We're gonna paint the town red. Exciting! They won't know what hit them. Cove shook his head disapprovingly, but you knew him well enough to tell that he was entertained by your notion. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. Oh, the new neighbors? It was definitely his idea. The new neighbors? I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Maybe he'll be a single dad and his son. anyone has to be better than the last tenants. I don't know. That house could be cursed, and we could keep getting ones that are progressively worse. He cracked a cheeky grin at his own joke. You could tell Mr. Holden was looking at the empty house, thinking about the nightmare that was the last tenants. He chuckled, turning to Cove. Bud, that would be horrible. Knock on wood. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really? Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place both hands over Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time you both watched. His dad leave, sure. You really liked Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. Not in that way, don't be weird. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay? Yeah, just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. I can wait with you. I mean, I have to get the mail, but I'll be back. You wouldn't abandon Cove there to wither on the road out of boredom. Really? Of course. I like keeping you company, remember? Don't say that. He stared at you for a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response. I can't even say back out the window because you're outside. Then his eyes fixated on you firmly. That noise was so involuntary. Kit, you're my true ally in this world. I got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement. I knew you'd stay for me. You're lucky to have me. Teasingly, Cove raised an eyebrow. You're the most lucky guy in all of Sunset Bird. Luckiest. For a moment, you weren't sure if Cove was laughing at your declaration or that you only momentarily forgot the word luckiest. Either way, you didn't mind. The smile on his face reached his eyes, and it made you feel electric. Woogie woogie woogie. He then stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contently, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the scoop. That has to be them, right? The only people who come out here live here, it has to be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a little bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop as you expected, in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilted his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. Exactly what I expected. I really wanted to meet you when we were 13. It's fine now, but I liked your hair better when you were younger than right now. It's fine. It was a young man, had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. I have so many questions for you. Number 1 is why? The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't be easily fashioned into submission. A pair of dark brown eyes which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something adverse. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there, however, and with a firm click, he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around a corner. The new renter had officially arrived. So, is it just you, or... He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. He followed suit. I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. I guess I'll shake it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Okay. Welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Kit. Hey, Kit. I'm quite keen on getting to know you better. Back up. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove instead crossed his arms to express his rejection of that idea, still eyeing Baxter carefully. Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment. Now, wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past. But it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove. That's gorgeous. Damn, he has riz. It's really not. Damn. I so want to say this. I'm not going to say anything, but I so want to say that. After a notable pause, Baxter caught on that he made you both uncomfortable. No, you're chill. No, I don't mean it in that way. What if I join in? Nice to see someone else knows. The impact might have faded for you, living with it this long, but I promised to the onlooker it's a knockout. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed that Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. He apologizes for it anyway. I'm sorry, it wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks? I'll pass, I think. No. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it. What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes, well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued. Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but luckily for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic just far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke, firm yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it. Plus, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged that you're... Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic fling started by saying those things? No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also no. I'm flexible, not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends if we can. Cove wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you, and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I'm not interested in any of that with you. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. I find it entertaining. I love characters in games that do shit like this. Flirt with me whether or not they mean it or they don't. 10 out of 10. I like it, I think, more when they don't mean it, but I'll listen. Whatever package you want to give me. Well, Baxter laughed at that. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you're both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You told Baxter that you were both waiting to see who was gonna move in. All we were doing was waiting for you to finally show up. What a line from me. Baxter laughed at that, immensely pleased with your response. I'm getting a reputation in this town already. Not bad. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both, as opposed to a nod of anything else, and flashed you both a dazzling smile. Goodbye for today. Cove simply waved goodbye. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath. I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. He burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine that conversation. So, you like it when people say that sort of stuff about people? It's okay to do it? Never mind. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. No, we're so totally normal. Give me a second. Yeah, we can go hang with our friends. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were looking forward to seeing more of him. Baxter was different, but you liked him. Smiling, you hoped that he would become a good friend this summer. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. Give me a moment. Give me a hot moment. I gotta go take a walk. A little while later, you and Cove reached a main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. You opened a text from Miranda and all you saw was, "I can see you." Immediately from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. Oh my god, there's even a phone on screen. I see you looking. Where are you? And I can even choose responses. I love this game. This is so good. The message was sent and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. You sent your own joking text. If you want to keep hiding, Cove and I can just do our own stuff without you. That's what you decided on. That's a little bitchy, but okay. You smirked, hitting send on that message. Cove looked at you curious, still raising an eyebrow. He raised a second eyebrow. What's happening? Before you could even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. And there you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. Okay. They both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. He grinned and waited for them to get closer. Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stopped only to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street. I love this so much. Hi, I hope you weren't waiting too long. Hey buddies. Hi. I knew that she was gonna be looking like that, so it's like, hey buddies. I'm amazed. How did you appear out of nowhere like that? They started giggling again. Terry glanced at Miranda, wondering what their story should be. It was magic. Gesturing in a vaguely whimsical manner, Terry went along with the decision. The magicians never reveal their secrets. Woo! That's fair. Terry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here. It's been so long. What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed. Sorry. Eventually, she let him go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Standing there, Miranda shifted her weight to her other hip. She watched Cove patiently with a bashful smile. Welcome back. Thanks. It finally felt official. Everyone was together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you would have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either. Cove. Terry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna have to get me your schedule by this time yesterday. Not really possible, Terry, but I can say as soon as I know. So far work hasn't said anything, but I can tell you I'm busy with orca activities. Werewolf, but orca. Where orca? When Cove wasn't at his part-time job or pursuing his academic interests, he volunteered for the Ocean Restoration California affiliation. Orca. The group focused on cleaning up beaches and removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. It didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. It was Cove's activity. Their big smash event for the year is coming right up, isn't it? Yeah, there's not much more to do before then, but I'm kind of looking forward to the fundraising push. You nodded, wondering how the event would turn out this year. I know you can do it, and even if it goes really bad, it's still a good look on a college application at least. That's true. Hey, guess what else? We don't have to stand here and say stuff. Let's go. I would like a meal now. Working up, Cove nodded in agreement. Yeah, I'm hungry. Time to head out. The four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision left to make was where exactly to stop and eat. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in the blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Terry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. You were walking tiredly. That's kind of the same thing as ambled, isn't it? Like, you yawned, stretching your arms high over your head. It was taking a lot of mental focus to keep up and walk alongside Cove. Damn, let me see what ambled means for this game. That's better, okay. With every step, you knew that your fate was being sealed. Your feet were going to be sore well into tomorrow. It was taking a lot of mental focus to keep up and walk alongside Cove. As you peered at his face out of the corner of your eyes, you wondered why he felt so distant to you. It was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your thoughts. It surprised you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they're the same. They're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had to make their own priorities and their own path now that it wasn't just set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You were still set on that for yourself. You wanted Yikes. I thought that you were going to ask me about school, not about work. Like between these two, to focus on time that's not school or work, to work full-time. I guess to work full-time. Oh. I could also go to school full-time too. And that was the basics. For your career, you thought you'd... Ooh, I love this. Work online or start your own business. Kind of the same thing for me. Start your own business. Could also work online. Fun, interesting. And for that, you wanted to, oh my god, stay local. And it'd all be happening so soon. You hadn't begun to do anything about that yet. And you'd only spoken about this with family and those you were close to, like Cove. Now you wondered what Cove had in mind. You'd heard him consider some things for his future, but there wasn't anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Cove sighed. Cove looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right words to say. So, you're planning on working and stuff in Sunset Bird? Yeah, you remembered. Cove closed his eyes and nodded while he composed his thoughts. He looked at you and he lifted his head. I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly and rubbed his arm. And then his expression grew more serious. I'm not going to decide on a school or a career, not this summer. I'm going to stay here, at least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff, and everything else. Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall or next year, or maybe I'll never have a plan. Life will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not going to crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him. I guess it'll be me and you right here for a while longer. His eyes were glossy. You weren't going to be separated, and that meant a great deal to him. Nod. Cove sighed. He looked relieved that you understood. I'll see you tomorrow, Kit. I'm already looking forward to it. Night. Then Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered, how many more times will he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow? You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned towards your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer. Oh my god. Okay, we can look at all of the different, the titles of the moments I know this episode is running a little bit long, but we can hang with some pizza, we can do some errands, we can have talks. I know what this one is about. So I'm telling you right now that I'm not going to be very surprised about it, though I don't know the full extent. I just know like the basics. Charity, okay, I assume this is the Orca charity thing. Drive, well, I can't, so I don't know who's doing it. Reflection, late shift, serendipity. I've heard things about serendipity, but I don't know what it's about. And boating, I've heard things about, but I have no idea what it's about. Like, I've heard serendipity as a word, a name. Boating, I know there's some sort of like shippy moment between you and Cove. Happiness, okay. And then we have Baxter. Oh, okay. And then we have Baxter DLC stuff. I thought we would have had Derek Step 3 DLC as well. That's kind of upsetting to know that like he's not going to be around. That's going to be it for this episode, but I'm definitely really excited to continue on with this and get more into it. I'm debating whether or not I want to record another episode tonight. On one hand, it is 1:30 in the morning. On the other hand, I really like this game so much. But thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you are excited to start Step 3. We're adults, we're 18, and we're ready to take the world by storm, on storm. I don't know the phrasing. I don't know why I used that phrase if I don't know what it is. We're ready to have our moments.